Welcome in everyone. We will be starting the live stream here in a moment. Just going to give it some time for everyone to hop in. I just shared the link over on X and also in the Discord. So we will be starting here momentarily. How is everyone doing today? I know that the market is it's a little bit rough right now, but this is exactly what we wanted to see. We talked about it. 112K on Bitcoin, the main target. You buy the dip on HBAR, Nick? I haven't yet. I actually did buy an altcoin. I will say that. But outside of that, I haven't really entered into any, major positions just yet, but there is some capital being deployed at this current moment. I do think that we might have a little bit more pain to go through, but for the most part, this is what we were expecting anyways in the market. I'm not too surprised, I'm not shocked or anything, and I don't think anyone that's been watching the live streams should also be concerned about this at all. I mean, this is exactly what we wanted to see. Happy Friday, Nick. Hope all is well. Yeah, everything is all good over here. I hope everybody is having a good time. It's Friday officially. The weekend is almost here, so I'm sure that everyone is having a good time. I mean, outside of the market, obviously, but, it all really depends on what you are, how you're looking at it. If you're looking at this as, oh, I'm losing money right now with my investments, it's not going to be that good. But if you're looking at it and saying, oh, well, look at, we're seeing a buy opportunity here, then hey, you should probably be celebrating this. Been watching Sky recently. I haven't looked into it. John G, welcome in. I'm an inexperienced investor, but I love buying opportunities. Yeah, I think everyone should be accustomed to it at this point. Yeah, I mean, it really is a buy opportunity if you think about it. Even in terms of stocks, there's a lot of great buy opportunities in stocks too right now. But this really shouldn't be that surprising to anyone that's been watching the channel for a bit of time now. We're going to be starting here in a moment, just letting everyone hop in. We should be pretty good here. All right, let's go over to the scene. So this is what we are looking like currently. Welcome in, Christian. So the market, I mean, listen, on the daily, yeah, we're seeing some nice losses here. I mean, Ethereum is down 4.5%. Some of the altcoin market is down in a big way. If we're looking at like the top 500 and beyond, there's definitely a lot of losses out there. I mean, this is the top 200 currently. There's a lot of great losses here. I mean, Telcoin down 6.8%, looking pretty good for a buy opportunity there. Outside of like the top 200 to the top 300, this is where we are seeing some still pretty good gains, but Track is one that I'm looking at, down 6.7%. For the most part, I mean, listen, there's some great buy opportunities out there. There's a few outliers that are still up in green, but this is exactly what we wanted to see in terms of volatility, in terms of some drops in the market. It takes a little bit of time. This is why I kept saying throughout this week to have some stablecoins on the sidelines, and we're finally getting that big drop. If we actually look at Bitcoin, hovering around 113.6K. Ethereum is below 3,500. XRP is at $2.96 again. SUI, $3.50. XLM 38 cents. HBAR down to like 24 cents. So this is very, very good to see. Is it planning to move up tomorrow? Realistically speaking, it's going to be a little bit of time until we actually see that big bounce back. During the weekend, I don't really put a lot of weight behind weekend price action simply because we're not really tied to much. It's pretty much prime time for manipulation of the prices, but I'm not expecting us to have a big bounce or a rebound just yet. I just like I said in Wednesday's live stream, the next 2 weeks should be pretty boring or negative, right? So we'll have like that drop in the market. We'll probably chop a bit. And for 2 weeks, we'll probably just not really see anything that significant at all. So this is pretty much the major correction that we wanted to see we'll probably range for a little bit of time, and then we'll have that rebound. And I'll talk about exactly what we're looking at. But stocks, so like I said in Wednesday's live stream as well, you guys can go back and watch it. I was not expecting us to get that big run up to 6,500 anymore because of that run that we had on Thursday. And I said that this was the next move, that big drop, right? We got the drop, and in fact, we did hit our target perfectly here. We hit about roughly 6,200. We wicked to like 6,212 exact. And now I'm watching for us to kind of range here a bit and get that move to the upside started. Now, this will take some time. It will probably take us into September officially to really get that big reversal. So I'm expecting us to kind of have days like this where we just kind of, maybe chop a little bit more range and then get that big move to the upside. There's still a possibility that we wick down to the previous highs. Realistically speaking, this could be a little bit higher on the daily. So, somewhere around like 61.5 is totally fine with me. So when it comes to this, just expect a little bit more pain before we get that big reversal. But this is, what we want it out of the markets. We needed sentiment to actually get reset. In terms of the crypto market itself, fear and greed down to 50. So this is good. This is just like I said in last night's video from midnight, where I said that the market reset just happened. Yeah, this is it, right? We're seeing sentiment reset. A lot of people are probably worried or concerned. Some people are getting shaken out. This is what we like to see when the markets are red hot the way that it has been. I mean, some of these old coins have been going crazy. A lot of people have been getting very excited. And during that time, you really just want to be on the sidelines, kind of being like, oh, well, I don't know. I wouldn't be too happy just yet. Because again, typically when everyone is getting happy, we really start to see that wipeout because sentiment is too hot. The market is too hot. And we just really want to see that market reset so that we can gain liquidity, we can build a floor again, and then we can get that next move. So this is a small wave in the market right before we get that big move to the upside. Greed needs to come down to 30 to 40. It's hard to say if we really need to get a little bit more of a wipeout. I think that time capitulation will get us down there. I don't think that we need any more, deeper price action to the downside. I've always said this even with Bitcoin, right? Right now, this is what Bitcoin looks like. I don't think that we're bottomed here. I think that we actually go a little bit lower. 112K has always been my target on Bitcoin during this time. I said it during, the last couple days that we want to watch for a loss of 117K because that would signal the shift down to 112K. We're basically getting there. And we still have a little bit more pain to go on Bitcoin. It's roughly, let's actually look at this. It's roughly like 1.5% away from hitting this target. During this time, when we actually hit this target, we'll range, right? We won't have, a V-wave recovery immediately. No, what will happen is we'll hit this target, we'll range a little bit, might even get a nice little uptrend. We'll hit the 117K level, probably even sell off a little bit more. Then we'll have that more like that range to the upside where we, start to kind of range down here. And then we get that big break above 117K to reclaim this level, maybe even hit 120K, sell off from there a little bit, range, and then we get the big break. This will take some time. I want you guys to realize that, we're not expecting an immediate recovery in the market. It's going to take some time. A perfect example of this is even back here in June after we had that sell off from the May highs. We wicked all the way back down to almost the previous highs. We technically filled a fair value gap here on the daily, as you guys can see back here. So we filled this gap almost perfectly. We tapped that. We had the recovery. It wasn't an immediate recovery, but it was pretty solid. We retested some highs, chopped to the upside, sold off a little bit. Again, retested the high from June, sold off a little bit more, chopped, and then finally got that big break. And I said that this took us some time, right? Like if we actually look at how long this took us to get back to those May highs, it took us over 40 some days. It was almost 50 days exact. So when we look at this, from our current high that we have to where we are now, it's been 19 days. We still need to see 112K probably tapped, which we'll probably get. So I would say, and by the way, it's the same scenario here, just so that you guys know. Like if we actually look at this, we still have a fair value gap right here around 112 to 115K. We basically almost filled this perfectly. If we're looking at the recovery, if this is our bottom, and I say if because again, I'm not dead set on it being our bottom, you know, this took about another 17 days to finally get that big break. You know, from the top to the bottom here, 18 days. If this is going to be our bottom, this was 31 days. So it's almost half. It's a little, you know, under half, if you will. But if we still look at this, you know, 17 days, give it 8 days from this point, then we'd be looking at like August 9th, August 10th. So again, we still have a little bit more time here until we officially start to see a range form and until we actually see that big recovery, but it's going to take a little bit of time. So just be patient. Let the buy opportunities come to you. Don't chase anything at this time. Watch for 112K on Bitcoin to actually hold. This is going to be crucial for us. So we're definitely going to be keeping a close eye on Bitcoin during this time. But yeah, this is definitely shaking the tree savage for sure. So this is very good price action, very healthy as well. Doesn't really change much at all. In terms of like altcoins and stuff like that, yeah, sure, altcoins are going to get, you know, hit a little bit more probably, but you know, for the most part, this is not like anything to be concerned about. The total drop on Bitcoin, by the way, during this entire time, if anyone is panicking, you know, this total drop is 8.53%. So this is almost like an 8.6% drop on Bitcoin. What was the drop from May into June? 12.25%. What was the drop total from January highs into the lows of April? 31+%, almost 32%. So again, this is very shallow compared to our previous pullbacks. And even if we do get down to like that 112K zone, it's like 9%. So there really isn't much at all that has changed on Bitcoin. Manurska, I hope that I'm saying that name correctly. I've mentioned Axelar already in Wednesday's live stream. Nothing has changed with Axelar. But yeah, this is very good to really kind of see in the market. In terms of Ethereum, again, very similar to Bitcoin. We did lose major support. We're still kind of following Bitcoin closely here on Ethereum. You know, is this going to be our bottom on Ethereum? It's hard to say, right? We tapped 3,400. If we look back in time, 3,400 is the highs from January 31st, even back here from like November almost. So there is definitely a lot of demand around this area where we could just kind of hold this as our bottom on Ethereum. But I still think that we potentially have a little bit more pain on ETH to get through. It's questionable on if we're going to tap this blue zone or not. This blue zone is significantly lower from where we are at right now. It's hard to say if we're going to get that total flush on ETH, but you know, it would be healthier if we do. Currently right now on ETH, the change here is like 13%, current price action 11%. So, you know, Ethereum definitely did drop a little bit more than, you know, Bitcoin during this time. But, you know, we're mainly just watching for a floor to be formed here on the chart or a significant reaction like back here in June, right? We want to see a strong impulse move back above like 3620, build a floor here, get that continuation, create a higher high. That would be a very good signal that we basically bottomed out on Ethereum. And sometimes it's very good to wait and be patient rather than trying to catch a falling knife and all of a sudden the floor just completely drops out below you. So sometimes it's not a bad idea to buy a little bit higher when you have that clear confirmation. But in terms of the market itself, this is what the total looks like. Very similar to Bitcoin. If you guys do remember during the live stream, I said that we are watching this $3.79 trillion level. If we lose this on the daily, it's going to get pretty rough. We did lose it on the daily. We continued to sell off. We tapped down here at like 3.6 trillion. This is right around the support zone that we were holding back in the middle of July before we had that nice impulse move back up to like the $4 trillion level almost. So far, we have a nice little reaction here. Nothing, you know, significant to the point where like, oh, hey, look we have a lot of, you know, strength here. So we're going to watch this closely to see if this is going to hold. If we lose 3.6 trillion, then the next target here would be retesting those May highs. at about roughly 3.47 trillion, which is why I do think that we could see Ethereum, continue to drop to the downside. I mean, the main thing here on ETH is that there really isn't, if we look at the 3-day here, we're holding on to this 3480 level. This is just major resistance back in January. There really isn't a lot of demand or support until we get back down into this blue zone, which is why I think that we could potentially see, a stronger wipeout on ETH, which will definitely hurt altcoins a little bit more, but it's going to be buy opportunities if we do get that wipeout. I'm gonna read the chat here in a moment. I do actually want to go over some of the altcoin charts because, again, I'm sure that a lot of people are waiting on like XRP or HBAR or XLM and things like that. So I actually want to go over XRP. So this is what XRP currently looks like. So far on the daily, we have been holding the highs going back here to like March. And it's not like when we look at this level that we're really kind of ranging on. Let me just kind of move this. It's moved a little bit. So it's support going back to January. There's not like a ton of support here. There's only 2 daily candle body closes on this level. There is resistance from March that we're holding here. There's technically some resistance from the middle of July as well. And this is also right around that wick from our recent price action of July 24th. So we have so far held this $2.96 zone on XRP. But the problem is that on this recent wick, which is Friday's price action, we did create a lower low. So the structure here on XRP is still pretty bearish on the lower time frame. So when we actually look at this, we need to be very cautious at this time to see if XRP is going to completely lose this $2.96 level. Because if we do, there's still a possibility that we get down into that, mid $2 range of like $2.55 to like $2.80. JB, I don't really do a lot of sessions with the premium side. Mainly what the premium side is I give them a full market breakdown on Sunday as well as Wednesday, so that they get the weekly candle close breakdown on how the market is reacting. And then Wednesday is the mid session where we do have stocks. We have the data from stocks, we have the data from the dollar, how it's affecting the market. And then also throughout the entire week, I'm posting chart updates around altcoins, how altcoins are looking. There's buy signals in there, there's exit plans, there's a weekly newsletter, there's market or project breakdowns as well, where you can get a whole bunch of information on certain projects. There's a members request tab. There's so much in that premium side in the Discord. Bitcoin dominance is going up. Yeah, I mean, listen, when we look at Bitcoin dominance, the crucial thing to focus on with Bitcoin dominance, and I could actually just look at it right now. So the main thing here is that we are breaking back out. The blue zone is what we really wanted to lose here on Bitcoin dominance. And I was mainly looking at this, I believe, on the 3-day or the 1 week. It might have been on the 1 week. Yeah, so it was on the 1 week here. So the main thing here was we tapped the blue zone. And this is where we would have seen a big, reaction on Bitcoin dominance. So we started to break back to the upside. We reclaimed a major resistance at around 61.9%. So this is actually breaking out. And when we think about Bitcoin dominance rising, is it a bad thing? No, it's not. In fact, this tells us that we still have more time for altcoins to actually, build positions on altcoins, buy up more, for our portfolio. It just tells us that we're not there yet for altcoin season. It's the same reason why I said to focus on the Bitcoin dominance plus the Ethereum dominance chart as well, because when it comes to this chart, and I was mainly looking at this like on the 3 week or even the weekly, when we look at this chart, this is the biggest signal for alt season, okay? Because if we go back to 2021, this thing officially topped at the end of December, just like Bitcoin dominance. But this is dominance being usurped from both Bitcoin and Ethereum for altcoins. Right now, Ethereum dominance is also rising. Ethereum is the one to really kind of watch at this point, because when we think about Ethereum, Okay, Ethereum has been leading the way so far because of the ETF flipping Bitcoin ETFs. We still see Ethereum, strength really kind of building in the market. We were getting close to that $4,013 target, and Ethereum is basically the next one to lead the market because of phase 2. So right now, when it comes to altcoins, like altcoins are not the main focus here. It's actually so much more on what Ethereum can do in this market right now compared to Bitcoin. So that's why I even said, like, during the last couple, days or weeks, that we need to be paying attention to, Ethereum more than altcoins at this point. Altcoins will be next, but that's why we have been averaging into positions on altcoins, because we are getting very close to officially being able to call this. Guess what? Hey, look at Altseason's finally here. But in terms of the altcoin market, I still think that we have a little bit more pain to go through, simply because, Bitcoin, I still see Bitcoin hitting 112K exact to really kind of retest those highs. And then we get that continuation. And during this time, we'll probably see the total and even Ethereum dropping a little bit more. But when it comes to HBAR, this is what HBAR looks like as well. HBAR still looks pretty good here. If we can bottom here and avoid any lower price action, then Ethereum is still creating higher lows and we still have those higher highs. So the structure on HBAR is actually still very bullish. The main thing is maintaining these lows. I would like for us to actually hold above 24 cents roughly. And if we can do that, then HBAR will be very bullish at this current point. We still need to get over that red zone. That red zone has been respected quite a bit on HBAR already. We have so many retests of trying to break out of that like 29 cent, almost 30 cent zone. We already have one retest of it. Shallow retest here in July, towards the end of July. Then we have 3 taps almost of this 30 cent level before we reject it heavily. And most altcoins are in the same position. I mean, even XRP was in a very similar position because we were finding a lot of resistance up here at around like $3.56. We tapped this, over 5 times. So again, this is all higher time frame resistance for XRP. For HBAR, even XLM, very similar. XLM, hitting that red zone multiple times, trying to retest those highs from January. We rejected it heavily. Now I'm looking to see if we are going to bottom around major lows or if we're going to tap this blue zone. We got a $2 super chat from the Outdoor Odyssey. Thoughts on Dovu daily chart? It's built on Hedera. I haven't looked into Dovu's price action in a while. I will say this. The main thing to focus on with any project that's within the Hedera ecosystem, and I'm pretty sure that Credible Crypto also mentioned this a while back. I think it was when somebody said, to chart Saucer Swap. When we think about any project in that ecosystem, the main focus is always going to be HBAR. Focusing on how successful Hedera is will lead to success of those other projects as well. So if HBAR is doing well, if Hedera is doing well, then Dovu is going to do well as well. So focusing on this project in terms of like the actual HBAR chart is a lot more important than focusing on the Dovu chart. And the same goes for any ecosystem as well. Like if you're looking at a project that's tied back to the XRP ledger or a project that's tied back to Stellar, you want those main project tokens to actually do very good. Old cycle is dead. I actually disagree with you. I still think that we are in the typical 4-year cycle and that we will see another bear market. Nothing has changed. I mean, listen, if we are in a utility cycle, why is XRP, HBAR, XLM, all of these utility projects, why are they still following Bitcoin and Ethereum? So like if there is a YouTuber out there or if there's an influencer out there saying, hey, guess what? The 4-year cycle is dead. We are now in a utility cycle. Guess what? Go and look at the liquidity cycle and then tell them, why are we still following the liquidity cycle then? Why do we still need the M2 money supply, to continue going up? Like we're not at that point where utility is the driver. And the main thing about utility is also we don't have it at scale. to the point where it can maintain the value of these large projects. I mean, XRP, in order for XRP to actually continue going up in value from utility, we need, tens of billions of dollars moving over the XRP ledger almost every single day. So, we're not there yet, but I do think that we will get there, which is why I do think that this is the last typical crypto bull run that, we're so used to seeing before we get into the utility cycle. So get through this one. We still have a bear market to go through. I think that regulations will be the accelerator for the bear market. After the bear market, the 4-year cycle is basically done. We will basically be going into that utility based cycle. But also in terms of some other altcoin charts, SUI. So I'm watching SUI closely here because, we are retesting that upper trend line. I'm hoping that we start to get that big rebound move on SUI. Again, this will also take some time. We might even build a floor here before we get that, big spike to the upside of like $5.30 or so. But so far, this has done very well in following our pathway. If you have been keeping up with the live streams, SUI is still a very solid project. I think it's one that almost everyone should be looking into. They recently actually just got a major investment because a company wanted to create a treasury with SUI. So that's definitely a big one to focus on. We got a $5 super chat from Josh J. I know you're briefly covered Julian Kwan from IXS InvestX in an XDC video. Would love to see more IXS content since they introduced Bitcoin Real Yield. Yeah, I'll definitely have to take a look at it. But IXS or InvestX is definitely a solid, company around this space. It's all just a waiting game. Years in the market beats trying to time the market. I do agree with you. I think time in the market compared to timing the market is always very important to follow. I mean, listen, there's been a lot of altcoins that I could say, if I was trying to time the top and trying to time the bottom, I probably would have gotten wrecked, right? XRP is a perfect example of this. Most of my XRP I bought back in the 2020 into 2021 timeframe because of, number one, the pandemic. Number two, the lawsuit. Technically, we talk down on the SEC constantly about that lawsuit, and we say, Gary Gensler ruined XRP's 2021 cycle and all this, but it was a blessing in disguise because it allowed us to buy up a ton of XRP around like 17 to 20 cents. And on top of that, right, when we look at, what's been happening with XRP since, I think almost everyone that bought around that time is probably thanking the SEC. This is the time you really load the boat on everything. Yeah, I think that this is probably going to be the last major correction before we hit 130K on Bitcoin. Most altcoins should be, significantly higher during that time as well. But we definitely we're at that crash point where a lot of people will say that this is a big crash, but it really isn't a massive crash. It's more of a correction than anything. But a lot of people will essentially panic at these times in the market. But this is the best time to be buying, especially just looking at fear and greed. I mean, if we look at the fear and greed index and we just go back to like the last year, okay, back here in September, it was the best time to be buying up altcoins, all the way through October, technically into like the beginning of November. And during this time, everyone was peak bearish. I still remember the comments on the YouTube channel during this time, because if we look at XRP, I mean, XRP is a great example of this. Just looking at the 1 year time frame back here in August all the way through September into October, XRP's price action was very boring, right? Let's just be honest here. XRP was so boring. Nobody cared about XRP during this time. Even just opening TradingView real quick, going back to the 1 week, look at this price action that we were dealing with all the way up until roughly November. This is what we were dealing with. And if we look back at the fear and greed, we were down at like 26. So this was a very good time to be buying up XRP or buying up a lot of altcoins. From that point on XRP, we ranged a little bit longer into the beginning of November. But look at what happened, and just for reference, if we actually look at this real quick, time frame wise, in the span of, and we'll go to the total, 77 days, okay? In 77 days, XRP ran over 592%. So this is why I say, like, when you look at fear and greed, this is actually a very good indicator of when you should be buying. Here's March all the way into April. Again, 2 great points of the market to enter. This is where you do not want to be buying altcoins, where we're up here in almost the extreme greed level. So even when it comes to XRP during this time, right, look at when we bottomed out. Here's March into April. Even this area here, if you were buying in this zone, we'll just go off of the average, right? We'll just go off of like $2.12. You were still up 70+% at those recent highs. So this is why I always say, when everyone is so fearful, when the markets are a little bit scared, or even when the markets are boring, right? Because back here, even when the fear and greed was significantly lower than where it is now, you know, we weren't having a major sell-off. In fact, we were just ranging to the side. This is also why I say, you know, somebody said recently that we need to get back down to like 30 to 40 fear and greed. Guess what? We don't have to have a massive sell-off in the market in order for this to actually continue dropping. All the market has to do is be very boring during that time, because time capitulation works the same as price capitulation. Because most retail investors, believe it or not, are very impatient. They want to invest on Monday. They want to get out on Friday. But that's just not how investing works at all. Yeah, I mean, XRP has so much bullish news behind it. We've talked about it on many occasions. I think that there's like 18 ETF filings. I think that there's 10 companies that are filing for treasury positions for XRP. I mean, it's still one of those projects that I just see a lot more upside potential left in it, even though we are up in a big way. I mean, listen, you don't go sideways for 7 years, miss one of the largest bull runs in history just to go from, you know, 30 cents to $3.60. And HBAR is also another one that has a few ETF filings behind it too. And HBAR was just recently mentioned in the White House document as well. So you can kind of utilize that information for your own investment advice. Any updates on MBD and Cell? Cellframe, it's a slow cooker, right? In terms of, like, if we're thinking about the long term around quantum computing and quantum technology, it's a bit of a slow burn, right? In terms of MBD, I've just been keeping up with what the team has been giving us, and so far they've been telling us that they're getting close to the launch point for their MBD Boulevard, so I'm definitely watching for that. And the problem with a lot of these types of tokens is that the liquidity around them is horrible, which they need to solve liquidity problems. That's like the biggest, you know, thing that they need to focus on. Obviously that comes with the platform launch. Outside of that, the main thing is just simply, you know, marketing and social and updating socials, because when retail investors are invested into a project and you don't have any updates on socials to go off of, all of a sudden it becomes a big issue where people are starting to panic. There is an XR or an Axelar ETF filing, right? I'm not too sure. I think that there might be. I haven't really looked into the ETFs around Axelar, but I do know that Axel is one of those altcoins that are still at like all-time lows, or at least around all-time lows. I mean, the chart for Axelar, just, it's insane to me that more people are not taking notice of it. If we actually look at it real quick, just taking a quick look at Axelar, I mean, look at the all-time chart here. This thing is flatlined. It's so flat. We know that there's a ton of utility behind this project. Even if we go to their X account, right? I mean, or sorry, this is their X account. I don't know why. I guess they moved over to this one. But regardless of that, if we look at what they've been doing, they've been having all of these major integrations. We've been constantly seeing more and more updates from the Axelar team. They've been working with some very large players to enable interoperability of these networks with traditional networks. I mean, this is just one of those projects that I feel is going to be a crucial piece for the Web3 future, And when the chart is this flat, I think that it looks so solid for a long-term entry. Losing 20% profit is not good. I mean, I think that anyone that's been in crypto long-term understands that you don't get volatility on the upside if you don't get volatility on the downside too. I mean, anyone that's been in crypto and is experiencing crypto knows that this is just a typical correction. If we're thinking about 20%, listen, just for reference, XRP, we didn't get this nice XRP move of 126% to a new high, which is technically a new all-time high by most people's terms, if we weren't going to get this 52% drop. So most people lost 52% of profits to gain 126% profits on the next big move to the upside. And realistically speaking, what gain did they get off of those previous profits? Well, it was still a nice 7.62% gain. I know that it's not crazy, but it's still the fact that they gained more profits. Would they have gotten more if they would have sold back here in January, entered more down here in April, and then sold back up here in July? Sure, they would have, but to time the market that perfectly, it's almost impossible, which is why just really holding and trying to just have time in the market is far better than trying to time the market. Yeah, most altcoin ETFs won't be approved until the SEC has that framework in mind. You know, they've been trying to really kind of do a few things with it. In fact, I think that let's go back to my X account real quick. I'm pretty sure that I did like a post that was tied back to the SEC. Yeah, it was this one, right? The SEC has released new listing standards for crypto ETPs. Any altcoin with 6+ months of futures trading may qualify. XRP is one that does qualify, but most of them, like, I don't think that there's going to be a lot of approvals for like the late entries, right? I think Nate Garashi actually did put out a post regarding this, but there's a few crypto projects that have like a 90 to 95% success rate of getting approved by like October. And I think he actually said September, October. Let me actually find it real quick. I think it was one of these posts here. No, it wasn't. I forgot where it was, but I know that he said somewhere around like September or October we would be getting approvals for some of these altcoins. Just going off of what we were seeing from the Bloomberg analyst as well. But yeah, XRP is one of them. HBAR is another one. Solana is one. Any of these other projects like Axelar or even like XDC and some of them, they're going to be a little bit late to the party, which is totally fine. Listen, I said it before and I'll say it again. I think it was in an XRP video recently. The main thing that I'm looking at when it comes to ETFs isn't so much about, oh, hey, look at TradFi's pumping our bags. It's more so about crypto infiltrating the TradFi space. Like when you have institutional players rushing for ETFs, they see the demand of these projects. They see that these projects are going to create a ton of, FOMO from the retail sector. They know how big these projects will be, so they want to get behind it. They want to make sure that they are making money off of this, which is also why I said many times over that BlackRock will file for an XRP ETF. I mean, it's kind of ridiculous that people still don't see why BlackRock will do that. When we look at Bitcoin and Ethereum and how successful both of their ETFs have been for BlackRock, if we're looking at XRP just makes a lot of sense. It's the third largest crypto project by market cap. It's in the Made in America category, which we already know that Trump and this admin just recently said, like, listen, US-based crypto is going to be our main focus going forward. We want the future of finance to basically be built on the backbone of US technology. When we're looking at that, the top Made in America tokens, XRP is the #1 project by market cap, but also it's how successful XRP has been so far this cycle. We look at XRP, and if we think about how it's been outperforming Bitcoin in the last year, I mean, guys, it's 100% compared to like 500+%. or even Ethereum. I mean, we look at Ethereum, it's a night and day difference. And also, when we think about Solana, right? Solana, we've significantly outperformed Solana as well this year. And yeah, BlackRock will definitely file for a Solana ETF. I'm pretty sure as well, Chaos. I think so. But there's so many ETF applications. I think we kind of just go down the line. So if I'm being honest with you guys, I think that XRP, Solana, I know that there was a Dogecoin one. I think that we kind of avoid some of these other ones until we get like HBAR out there as well. Then we'll probably see Litecoin. We'll probably see Dogecoin maybe. ADA, SUI. I know SUI has an ETF filing for it. I mean, listen, there's probably going to be an ETF for almost every single one of these like legitimate top 20 base projects. But what I'm more excited for isn't so much the ETFs. I'm more excited to see stocks just moving on chain where some of these projects are actually the backbone of the future stock market, because we already know that the NASDAQ wants to go 24/5 next year, followed by like 24/7 eventually. We know Robinhood is very bullish on tokenized stocks. They see that the future of stocks is going to be on the blockchain. It just makes a lot of sense. 24/7, 365 trading is not possible on traditional tech. So we look at blockchain, we look at DLT, and then also the SEC with Paul Atkins basically just told us like, hey, guess what? We're going to see this. This is going to happen. It's going to be very exciting. Tokenization is the future, and we are doing everything in our power to actually support that. And talking more so about BlackRock, let's go back to January of this year where Larry Fink was urging the SEC to get the ball rolling on tokenization, which tells us that Larry Fink also wants to really see tokenization boom in a much larger way. And also Vlad Tenev from Robinhood also said the same thing, that he was urging the SEC to get the ball rolling. And even more recently, I believe it was from, I don't know who posted it, but somebody said that Wall Street and all of these enterprise companies are lining up. Yeah, it was this one. It was actually from Paul Atkins, right? SEC Chair Paul Atkins says Wall Street and Silicon Valley companies are lined up at our doors with requests to tokenize. So, you know, we're right now at the beginning part of the big boom for tokenization, which if we are looking at it from a market perspective, okay, we don't get tokenization at scale without these underlying networks being the backbone of that. And if you have, let's just say we have trillions of dollars moving over these public networks. It could be, 5 public networks. It doesn't matter, right? That demand will be so significant for these public networks that the underlying gas token, XRP, HBAR, XLM, etc., they are going to see a massive rise in value. This will lead us into the utility-based cycle that everyone wants. But we don't get there until everything is in place, which will take probably about another 2 years. But after that, we don't need to worry about price charts. We don't need to worry about any of these, is Bitcoin doing well? Or is Ethereum doing well? What's Bitcoin dominance at? We don't have to worry about those factors anymore, because all that will matter going forward after that is, hey, how much money is moving over this network right now? What integrations does this network have? Like, that's when all of these fundamental based announcements and information, all of that becomes very important, which is something that a lot of people have, for the most part, they avoid it for years on end. We've talked about this even with XRP and HBAR and things like that. For years leading up to November recently, I was talking about fundamentals. Guess what the comments on the channel were? Oh, all of this positive news, but zero price action. Well, guess what? We got the price action. Everyone was wondering, why is the price of XRP and HBAR going crazy? Well, if you watched the videos, you would know why. All of these huge announcements, these integrations, these partnerships, all of them are happening. And this is where all of that becomes a very important part of the puzzle. This is also why I keep saying, yeah, sometimes some of these things are very boring, but you need to pay attention to what's happening, because this will lead to that price action that we all want. One of Ondo Finance's partners is Pyth Network. Pyth is massively undervalued. I also think that Pyth is pretty good. We've looked at it. Which blockchain is best positioned to see the best opportunity for tokenizing stocks, in your opinion? I would say Ondo is up there. I mean, listen, Ondo is absolutely killing the game. They already have a ton of tokenized stocks on their platform. They have a tokenized, they basically have the stock market 2.0 on chain through their global platform. It's like a global finance platform, I think that's what it's called. But they've been absolutely killing the game for quite some time. They have some very strong integrations with some big players. They're already working with Goldman Sachs, I think. BlackRock, a ton of huge names, but Ondo's definitely up there. Another good mention I would say is, I mean, you really just kind of look at RWA.XYZ and you kind of look at the names that have like most of the value tied to them. You know, Ethereum is a good mention simply because it's kind of like a first mover, but I think that demand's going to shift in a big way. I think a lot of people are kind of blinded by just how big Ethereum has been up to this point. But with regulations and everything changing, and with these institutional players and enterprise companies, they want scale, and they're not just, they can't achieve that on Ethereum. So we'll probably start to see that big shift happen over the next like 12 to 24 months. The market is reacting in a very strange way. News comes out and has no effect. Well, that's because we're still tied to Bitcoin and Ethereum. And I've always mentioned that. The news, like, that's why a lot of people, like, they don't care about the news because they don't see it as like a price driver anymore. And I agree. It was never a price driver. That's the thing about the news right now. Like, the fundamentals don't matter to price action at this point, but will in time. Because we're starting to see all of the building blocks falling into place. And after everything is in place, we'll see the big picture. So when we think about like Bitcoin or even Ethereum, this is what's driving the market right now. Everything's selling off because of Bitcoin and Ethereum. Bitcoin drops and the market just completely nukes out. The tariffs definitely do affect the market, I will say. In terms of like the trade war, I think everyone's kind of, I think at this point it doesn't have the same effect, right? I've talked about this even with stocks. Like, stocks definitely sold off today. It was a pretty red day for stocks, which definitely affected the market. But everyone's expecting the same thing to happen now that happened back here, right? Like, during this time, everyone was panicking. I remember I would be at the gym and they have like the TVs at the gym playing. Mainstream media would be constantly talking about the fear around the tariffs and the trade war. They were blown it way out of proportion. They were saying, oh, this is going to hurt the economy. It's going to send us into a recession. You know, the Fed was even hinting at a recession during that time. And then guess what happened? We already had that big spike to the upside. So when we look at this, you know, mainstream media will harp on all day long about how this is bad for the economy, how the economy is going into a recession, and how you should be scared. Make sure to pull your money out of the stocks. Make sure to get your money out of these markets. Jump into the dollar, save your money, throw it into a bank account. And then guess what? The market does something like this, and this is why we don't get fearful because of what these mainstream media companies tell us. So then what needs to happen to make Bitcoin and Ethereum have less pull with other crypto prices? It's dominance. It's all based around dominance. Like, even right now, if we're thinking about Bitcoin and Ethereum, right? I just shared with you guys this Bitcoin dominance plus Ethereum dominance chart. This is the most important chart to actually focus on. We are still at levels that we saw back here in, June of 2024. We saw these levels back here in, October of 2020. We need for this to break down officially for us to actually get Altseason. And this is the problem. You'll have a lot of people over on X saying, oh no, you only need to focus on one thing, and that's Bitcoin dominance. No, it's when we think about Bitcoin and Ethereum, they're the two largest cryptocurrencies in the space. So if they are controlling the market, they both matter. So we can't just watch Bitcoin dominance. We also need to watch Ethereum dominance. Ethereum dominance, which if we look at this chart for this, Ethereum dominance chart, and we're at 11.6%. There's a few levels to watch on this chart up here I've been focused on, and let's just actually remove this real quick. And let me zoom out. I think I was watching this on the 3-week chart. So we knew that this was going to bottom out sometime around this level in March into April, which is also why I talked about, we would basically be seeing, altcoins going crazy into July, because we expect it to have a big spike in the market just going off of time frame. So we had that big spike. And you could argue that we're at this point, right? We're at like that July 2020 timeframe into August. Maybe, we still have one whole year left in front of us of just solid price action just to kind of repeat 2021. Or, we're at the beginning phases of phase 2. We probably only have about a month or two left for Ethereum to go crazy. And then towards the end of this year, we see Altseason officially wrap up 2025 into like the beginning of 2026. But regardless of that, we're still watching for Ethereum dominance to really take a strong lead here. We still need a lot more price action on this chart in order for Ethereum to officially finish its phase 2. But after that, with this chart rising in strength, it will drop Bitcoin dominance during that time, but we will still have this chart to watch for a topping out. Same with even Bitcoin and Ethereum dominance chart. Like, we need to focus on this. Ethereum, it won't have like that crazy drop like Bitcoin dominance. In fact, we'll probably start to see this really gain momentum and continue to gain momentum, because even if we look at 2021, here we have Altseason. This is the beginning of Altseason where Ethereum dominance started to break out in a huge way. It did drop from roughly January all the way through into March, into even like the end of March. And during this time, that's when altcoins went crazy. And then all of a sudden, we started to see another big spike in April. This is when most of the altcoin market actually topped out. XRP topped out during this time. Dogecoin topped out during this time. There was a ton of altcoins that topped during this time. But we continued to be pretty boring and not really rise that much in dominance during the rest of 2021. And then this is when the market officially topped out. This is November of 2021 into December. Then we just continued to sell off, and we just kind of range. And then we had that massive sell off into, of course, 2025. And now we're starting to see that big spike again. This is where a lot of altcoins start to gain a little bit of momentum, but we're still mainly watching the Bitcoin dominance and Ethereum dominance chart, because we should see a massive sell off on this chart back here into like 2021. We want this type of style sell off. So it's not just about Bitcoin, it's more so about Bitcoin and Ethereum, because we want to see altcoins really go insane. Hey everyone, welcome in, welcome in. October 31st, Bitcoin always takes off if it does not happen this year. In my opinion, it's alt season. Yeah, we'll have to take one step at a time and just kind of keep a close eye on the charts. Is there any pending event that will manifest in the market over the weekend? You are the best. Thanks again. I'm not too sure what you mean about an event, but during the weekend, we typically don't see anything exciting. It's typically a time where we just start to see price action I would say price action is manipulated during the weekend. World War III. Yeah. I think World War III, the thing is that if we ever see another war like that, I don't think that anyone should be worried about the price action of stocks or crypto or anything. I think that we have much bigger issues to worry about during that time. Making money or losing money during that time is probably the least of our concerns. I honestly, I see us avoiding any sort of major war like that. Like, we'll have like mini like war events in between, but I think that we completely avoid any sort of major event like that. There's probably not going to be any scary events at this point. When Bitcoin dumps bearish, ultimately when we start to lose major strength on this chart, like losing this December 2024 low, this will be that major signal on Bitcoin dumps for us to actually have that, major bearish signal. Yeah, I agree with you, Michael. Yeah, the thing about Putin is that like we always have these scare tactics that, shake the markets. It's typically noise at that time. Like I even said it with the tariff and the trade war discussions that we were hearing all throughout this year. It was all, noise. It literally was all noise. And we started to see that massive V wave recovery as well in the market. So again, a lot of this stuff is just typically noise. Oh yeah, they're definitely all in on it. I mean, most of the negative price action that we typically see in the markets, I've said this 100 times over in the past as well, and I think that it's something that, you know, I kind of live by. It's the idea that we will always have these types of shakeouts, okay? And when it comes to markets, a lot of people wonder, like, what moves the stock market? What's moving these markets? Are we, you know, are we seeing these markets move because somebody's in control of it? Or are we seeing, you know, these markets move because somebody's buying up a large amount or selling a large amount? The main thing to focus on is that these markets move on emotions. It's the number one reason why, and I know that I don't have it on my chart, but if we go over here, right, if we go back to the candles, why do you think the candles are red and green? Everything around us is red and green. When you look at red, it's stop, even a stop sign, you know, you stop. Green is to go. It's all based on emotions. Green is good, red is bad. It's all psychological and it's all emotions. Great channel, by the way. Hey, I appreciate that, Michael. I mean, there's no change on Q&T at all. I'll show you the Q&T chart. I see that you said it 100 times, but I'll take a quick look at it real quick. I actually just updated this chart last night. I was looking at it on the 1 week, or was it on the 1 week? It might have been on the 3-day. Yeah, so it was on the 3-day. There's no change at all on this chart. We might see one more wick down below $100. If we do see $100 being tapped here, it would be a great buy opportunity for Q&T. But there's no change at all. We respected the upper trend line going back to December. We rejected off of it, and now I'm watching for, you know, this area to be retested again. I'm not going off these lows because this was that major sell-off event. This is basically the fake out. And once we regained this trend line, we started to respect it again. And this is what I'm looking at us to really kind of retest again. So if we do see sub $100 on Q&T, major buy opportunity, especially for the long-term bids. We might see it here within like the first half of August. Watch to see if we do see it. If we see it, great. If we don't, then, you know, it should still be, you know, around at least like $100 if we do see a retest of this lower trend line at some point. We talked about XRP. XRP is still in, you know, so far a good standing on this chart, but it is bearish. I will say right now that, you know, XRP is in bearish structure on the daily. We have, you know, higher time frame resistance up here. This is our high. We have a lower high. We have a low. We have a lower low. So this is technically in a bearish structure. Even if we do have, you know, a major jump to the upside, it will probably be a lower high, and then we would be followed up with a lower low in this blue zone. So XRP right now looks pretty weak, not extremely strong. I'm not dead set on this being our bottom on XRP. And if I'm looking at lows to really kind of bid, it would be in like the mid $2 region, around like $2.55 to like $2.80. We also talked about HBAR in the beginning of the video. HBAR still looks pretty good here as long as it kind of maintains above, you know, these lows if we don't get a daily close below it. But again, I'm not dead set about it. We still have the blue zone down here at like 20 cents to like 18 cents. But it's also why I've been talking about Bitcoin, right? Like we've addressed Bitcoin. I still think Bitcoin has a little bit lower, then we probably chop a little bit more. So again, like when we think about this, we just have to get through this pullback, and this will pass. It's just a time that will pass. We have to be patient about it and just kind of wait it out. But guys, we are coming up. We actually just passed the 1 hour mark. I will be back on Monday with another live stream. It's always great to do these lives. It's always great to see all of you guys join in the live as well. I'm going to be wrapping this up now. There will be a video going live at midnight. This live stream will probably go live after that video, sometime around like the early morning hours, just so that it doesn't affect the algorithm on YouTube. But with that being said, Thank you guys for stopping by. Thank you guys for all the super chats as well. I do appreciate it. And I hope that you guys enjoyed the video. I hope that you guys enjoyed the live stream as well. If you guys did, definitely leave a like, subscribe, to notifications on. If you guys want more free content, you guys are more than welcome to follow me on Twitter and join the free Discord down in the description below. And with that being said, guys, it's been Nick. Thanks for watching. Peace out, guys.